This is the Overton Pod and a special edition of the Overton Pod. We have a guest, which many of you have been asking for, not only to have a guest, but to have this specific guest. And probably an exclusive on what he's going to tell us today. He has been interviewed elsewhere, but welcome Roman Cabanac to the show. And Kanthan, how are you?
Looks like we've almost come full circle here, John, because right about, 7 or 8 years ago.
Longer now,
yeah,
10.
Well, we had the Renegade Report, and the three of us were sitting down. I think it was the second episode that the pair of you did at the time, and the two of us, and
I kept him at arm's length this time, just
yeah,
other side there.
Yeah, so this is like a bit of a homecoming, isn't it, Roma?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of an expropriation. I mean, you two are like Renegade Report, and I'm the guest. Anyway, thanks for having me. I mean, if people are clamoring for me to be on here, like you really...
No, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I was about to say, yeah.
it's getting
disgraced, recalcitrant chief of staff.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
controversial, Mampara of the week. What else were you called in the many articles written about you?
Right-wing podcaster.
Oh, Podbro. That's
Podbro,
it.
yeah.
Of course, Podbro.
Now the DA have become Podbros, I noticed. They got their own DA podcast as of last week.
Oh, wow.
No, interesting. I mean, the EFF, I think they went to ChatGPT and just said, write the longest sentence of insults. And it was like, racist, anti-Semite, homophobic, something.
Okay, so
chief of staff. I was like, geez, that's a lot of words.
Great. It's great when they can just do that. All right, maybe we should go back to the beginning because I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning. Alec Hogg did a good interview with you where you sort of spoke about your background and your interests and all that. I think people who watch this probably have seen you around at least, watched your stuff for many years, Renegade Report before that, etc. More, I want to understand how you got to be John Steenhuisen's chief of staff. I want to just mention that you're not a member of the DA, never have been. So that was something...
At this rate, never will be, to be honest. But yes, that's true.
That was something, no, it was thrown around, right? It was, people can't sort of seem to separate things. And it was quite inspired, I thought at the time, that John chose someone who wasn't necessarily a member of the DA, who he chose, I assume, because he thought they would be, number one, competent, and number two, have interesting policy positions to feed towards him, amongst the other voices he gets from the DA.
Yeah, so I mean, I just got a phone call right after the election, very soon thereafter, out of the blue. John Steenhuisen calls me, which is rare because John doesn't answer his phone when you call him or answer messages. Like, he's known as someone who doesn't answer his phone, which is fine. That's what he does. But he calls me. I think it's the first time ever that he called me. And it's like, I heard you're looking for a job. And I was like, no, not really. I'm quite happy doing what I am. He's like, well, you know, the election just came in. We think there will be like a government of national unity. This was before the ANC ever had that conference to say that they're going for government of unity.
In April, early May, basically.
No, so it was just after the election, and they knew where the numbers were, right? But there wasn't a coming together as yet. It took like 2 weeks for that to happen. So I said, well, John, what are you proposing? He's like, well, you know, I expect to be a minister of something. They haven't decided. So let's like meet for dinner and talk. So I said, sure. So within a week, we met for dinner somewhere in Mara's Arch. And he's like, look, here's the ministerial handbook and here's all the positions available and like, just pick one. And I'm like a bit flabbergasted. I'm like, okay, John, like I sort of know you. Like I interviewed you on the show. I stayed for a day with you in Parliament for a vlog that I did, but like, he's not my friend. It's not like I haven't been to his house or whatever. I met his wife once at an event somewhere, but we're not friends. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, is there a camera somewhere, like a prank? Leon Schuster's going to come out. He's like, no, like, just pick one. So I said, no, chief of staff, obviously I want to be like the best paid and the highest authority. He's like, great. I'm like, okay. And then I wait, and then there's like a GNU, and then they say, okay, the DA has X number of ministers. So I send you a message, okay, which one do you have? Agriculture. So I thought, okay, that's something I can work with. I mean,
it also happens to be something that you're particularly qualified at, which is, again, a point that people don't actually
I
understand.
wouldn't say necessarily qualified. I mean, I grew up on a farm, integrated into a bigger farm, but we didn't do farming as such for
But as
for
the
work.
left would say, you have lived experience.
I have lived experience.
Which is
yeah.
more than 400 members of the National Assembly can say, right?
Maybe.
By and large.
Maybe. But the role of the chief of staff inherently is not to have or to be an expert in the thing. You have to be an expert in managing people, managing expectations, managing processes. So John could have chosen intelligence or he could have chosen home affairs. The chief of staff is still going to be the chief of staff. The role is not to understand the policies of that, it's to enforce the staff ministry of that. So anyway, so he says, then I get a call from HR at the Department of Agriculture, and then the whole process starts. And I mean, to this day, I still can't quite believe it happened. But it took 6 weeks of vetting and writing exams and psychometric testing where I failed like financial management. But other than that, I was very good. What the psychometric test result actually was, we are worried that Roman is very assertive and knows what he wants, and he can make people feel like unwanted or uncomfortable or something because he's focused on the goal. I think that's a good thing. If you are chief of staff, excuse me, I think that's a good thing. But it took 6 weeks to get appointed. I worked for about 3 weeks for free, inherently, because it took so long to get the HR process. And then I remember, like it was yesterday, August the 7th, we were in Bloemfontein at the 120th birthday of Free State Agriculture at the gala event. And as I was driving back to the hotel, I got the contract in my email inbox, and I signed it that night. And there you go. There was officially my first day as Chief of Staff, August the 7th, 2024.
All right. And then, so that sounds kind of normal, and you talk about a vetting
No,
process.
actually, this doesn't sound normal at all. I want to know, did John ever tell you why he came looking for you?
No. To this day, I still don't know. I mean, to this day, it still feels like a fever dream. It came out of nowhere, like a drop from the sky. It's like, what's the story? Like the gods must be crazy. Like the Coke bottle falls from the sky, and like people, that's how it felt.
But
I don't
surely,
know.
surely he would have said there was someone who recommended you. So we know, for example, that there are particular people in the DA who do generally have a soft spot for you and generally share your views on a couple of things. We won't mention names. But,
Keyword did. Keyword did.
Yeah, keyword did. Okay.
Well, I think, I mean, spoiler alert, but I think by the end of it, I think John told no one, and that's why it turned out the way it did. So I think he just made a decision.
You think he did make his own decisions?
Completely.
And then later down the line, I mean, it's very clear from Tony Leon's book, for example, that Tony was against you, doesn't know very much about you.
No, he doesn't.
It's very weird because he kind of insults you in his book, calls you basically just a podcaster, but has been following you on X/Twitter for many, many years. Obviously he's very misinformed on who you are in general. And we know that there's other people in the party who I want to get to, so I don't want to talk about them just yet. But your feeling is it wasn't vetted by the party.
No, definitely not.
But it was vetted by the government. So you went through all that testing.
Absolutely.
Because that was one of the, as far as I understand, when they eventually managed to kick you out, that was you failed, security agency vetting. That was the claim.
There's two different vetting procedures.
Okay.
So the first one is to be appointed, i.e. to be employed. So that's where they go through your academic record. They go through your citizenship. They go through, anything you want your whole entire life you have to present. Your matric results, your academic record, your marriage certificate, birth certificates of your children, your own ID, where were you born, why were you there, fill in all these affidavits. Like that's the initial vetting procedure, just to make sure that you're qualified for the job. Once you are appointed, then there is a state security vetting procedure which determines security clearance. And security clearance is basically something that everyone needs to work in the government. You might come across classified documents or top secret documents. And that's an entirely separate procedure, which is the one that I purportedly failed. There's still no proof that I did. So I have asked them numerous times. But those are the two vetting procedures. So the first one took 6 weeks just to be appointed. The second one, it can take up to 3 years to do it. But they managed to do mine in record time. They can be
3 years, but while you're working.
Yes.
So they appoint people into the government where they need a security clearance, but they don't have one and may not have one for several years.
Correct.
And then the allegation is obviously somewhere along the way you failed yours.
Apparently so. I haven't received proof. But there are many people who have failed their security clearance.
But
are still
assume
in
that none of
job.
this is listed in the ministerial handbook.
Not that I know of. But, I mean, I know that there's a deputy director at the MPA who failed because he's a British citizen. As far as I know, he still has a job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of generals in the army and generals in the police who don't have a security clearance, or there's a backlog of security clearances. They all still have a job and still working. So
I wonder if Feroz Kachalia has a clearance now that he's our new police minister. Interesting. All right, so John comes to you, appoints you, as you've said, seems to be his own decision. You start working August 7th, 24. When does it? Because I feel you had told me you were doing this. I think a couple of weeks before that, probably in June, July, somewhere around there. And I'd said great and everything, but I'd also said I'm worried about when the shit hits the fan. And I think if I'm mischaracterizing, you must tell me, but I think you kind of said, wow, it won't be a big deal type of thing. And I said, I'm not so sure about that. And, that's kind of where we left that conversation.
I was a bit more explicit than that when Roman broached the subject. And I said to him at the time, look, I think it's a great opportunity for you to actually fix something in the country. And actually... it'd be great to have someone competent actually in the seat of power, but I do not trust Steenhuisen at all, and I'd be very careful about him.
Yeah, well, that was prescient.
So a lot of people had those thoughts because
Yes.
I, like Cyril do, I consult widely before I make decisions, right?
So you were shocked when this all happened, also like Cyril.
I wasn't. Okay, we'll get to that part.
Yeah.
But no, I did consult like widely, and I spoke to lots of people, and they all said, "Sounds fantastic. Is there a backbone in leadership to back you if shit hits the fan?" And that's the calculation I had to make. And my calculation was, well, without even trying, that question cannot never be asked or answered in that scenario. So I just said yes in that regard.
I mean, look, I agree. And even when I said that to you, I thought there would be blowback, but I also thought that it could be overcome because the truth is if we go back now and look what happened, it wasn't August 7th. That happened closer to the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle, somewhere the 15th or 20th.
One of the journalists obviously found out. I think Daily Maverick was the first to it. And then it didn't stop for 10 months.
6 weeks.
Well, 6 weeks of solid.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing you sort of front page of major or front, website page of major publications for at least 2 to 3 weeks. You were the biggest story. There were floods. You were still the biggest story. People were getting murdered and raped, as happens in this place. Still the biggest story. The politics were much bigger than you, and yet you were still the biggest story. So that was just unbelievable. And obviously the media came out very, very hard. How would you have liked them to have dealt with that? Not the media. We expect them to do what they did.
Oh, right. Like John.
Yeah.
Like my
and
boss.
the DA.
Well, the DA has nothing to do with my appointment. Let's just make that a fact, right? I work for the government, for the Minister of Agriculture. I don't work for the DA. He happens to be the DA leader, but I don't give a shit about what the DA thinks of me. They didn't appoint me. They don't pay me. I'm not a member. I don't care at all what the DA thinks, right? What John should have done, and I spoke to him about this, is like, John, you know me, right? Like, you know what I've done in the past. You know that I like to be a bit provocative. I have strong views on things. All you have to do is back me up for 2 weeks. That's all it is, right? There's going to be an outcry. There's going to be some sort of media witch hunt. But just back me for 2 weeks, and then we'll get over it, and it's done, right? And I even stopped tweeting. Like, I didn't make any public mention of what I'm doing or what we're busy with or anything like that. And he said, yeah, sure, of course. But during that month of August, I was the only person appointed in the office. There's supposed to be 8 members of staff. I was the only one. So I was doing everyone's job. We were traveling all over the country. And then we had to go to China for a state visit. And the preparation for a state visit is just something like horrendous and massive. So I was so busy, I didn't really pay that much attention. Because I thought, okay,
It's noise. It's peanut gallery.
Let the chihuahuas yap.
Yeah.
And then something else is going to happen and it's going to move on. But they didn't stop bloody yapping. And even when I was in China, we were there for 10 days. Like, it's just like continuous, like, journalist questions, DMs. I remember, and I refused to answer because the questions were so stupid. It's like, one of them was, if a member of staff is gay, how would you treat them? I don't know. Will I throw them off the building? Like, well, what do you want me to answer to that? Like, these are the type of questions I was receiving. And I refused to take interviews because I knew the questions are going to be like, but why are you a racist?
Yes.
Like, are you really a racist? This was a waste of my time.
When did you stop beating your wife? Those are basically the questions.
Yeah, essentially.
Just back to the sort of Twitter stuff. You deleted your Twitter sort of history, I suppose.
Yes.
Which pros and cons. The con, obviously, is that it removes, if people have screenshots, which they did.
The most innocuous
Yeah,
ones.
sure. If people have screenshots, then they can take it out of context because you don't have the greater pool to say, this is how I tweeted, these are the types of things I said, asked, this is the way I run my account. And then the positive is, yes, if there's worse stuff, then, or stuff that could be taken in a worse way than what has been saved, so to speak, you know, that's gone forever. What was your logic around that?
I've been on Twitter since 2008.
Yeah.
With the same account. Who knows? You know how the society changes in the way it views words. I mean, we were just been through the woke era. I mean, it's people have been hounded out and committed suicide for saying like men are men and women are women. Like, it's just like crazy stuff.
Also, you had different opinions over that period. Like, you've changed, you've evolved
as
a person.
Much more right wing now. But who knows what I said? So I thought, it's a fresh slate. I'm going to be a government employee. My Twitter doesn't actually matter that much. I'm actually not going to tweet that much. I'll just retweet the minister if needs be. I'll be like one of those proper communication guys. So I thought, I don't want anything to deviate from the mission, right? And I'll tell you what the mission is. It's very simple. But the mission is serve the minister, serve the country, try and make, however small, some contribution to especially agriculture, because I think it's criminally underutilized. And the rest is just noise. So just delete the noise. I didn't do it in a rush. I didn't do it in a hurry. I did it methodically. And I thought, it's a fresh leaf. As we've got a new government in place, a new GNU in place. I wasn't like ecstatic or thinking this is going to change the world, but it's a new leaf. I'm a government official now. I have to become a little bit anonymous and just focus on the work.
Yeah, got you. So the tweets that they found that they didn't like. I mean, I can't even remember. There was something about, there was some Bantu migration tweet, I think.
No, I said Bantus and Arabs are monarchs. Well, they like monarchy.
Okay, so for example, Zulus have a king.
Yeah. So apparently Bantu is like a swear word now. I didn't know. I should have spoken to the Deputy Minister of Defence. Say your name. And
You're not allowed,
Bantu
to use that word.
right? Bantu Lamisa. You can't. You have to change your name. Sorry, boss. I don't make the rules. Daily Maverick does. And then the other one was, we'll never know the true. What did I say? Something about Sharpeville. It's like the truth around Sharpeville.
Sure.
And it was a greater point about history is always written by the victors. Like, we don't really know many things about many historical events that happen. And I use that as an example because I'm South African. So obviously I was denying that Sharpeville ever happened for some reason.
Sure,
if I say we don't know the truth.
I think on the history of that, I don't want to get too deep into it, but one of the people that died there, you know, obviously Hector Peterson is always held up as the archetype of that day.
That was Soweto Uprising.
Sorry, I'm confusing the
Soweto Uprising.
The uprising.
Yeah.
But with regards to that,
You're doing a Magda Verjeka.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing.
You're doing a Magda Verjeka.
Oh, okay.
Because she tweeted a picture of.
Yeah, a lot of these events do tend to. I think you're correct. Didn't seem to be that controversial a comment. A lot of these things do tend to get lost in translation, or people get forgotten. So yeah.
But these sort of things are like really like out of, when I look at the people that I worked with and the other people in government and what they're doing. I mean, fuck's sakes, it's words on a screen. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is a national conversation for 6 weeks. is a tragedy because there's so many better things to focus on and many more important things to focus on.
Right. So why do you think it became such a focus? Because I think that's the interesting part here, right? It's why was the freak out? There's lots of chiefs of staff. Nobody who's watching this, nobody who read those Daily Maverick articles and thinks you're a terrible human being, whatever. People on either side, they don't know who anyone else's chief of staff is. They can't name anyone. They don't know what their political opinions are. They don't know where their Twitter account is. They don't know if they've ever said anything dodgy or are the nicest person on earth. It's irrelevant, right? Everyone accepts that. The reality is that we literally have communists in government, people who they will tell you that I'm a communist, and they will tell you that they believe that they need to seize the means of production. And those people like that, with that ideology, have killed hundreds of millions over the last 100 years. So the reality is those people get left completely alone. What was it about you that you needed to be expunged, that this had to happen?
So I have three theories. If I was an ANC, right, at the start of the GNU, I want to apply a bit of leverage to my GNU partner, the major partner. What would I do? Okay, who's a staff member? Oh, okay, this is Roman Cabanac guy. He called someone something or whatever the case might be. I won't repeat. And it wasn't even me. It was someone else on my Twitter account. It wasn't me. But anyway, if I was at ANC, we still want to pursue the NDR. We still want to. The GNU is like a stopgap, right? It's the balance of forces thing. We can't pursue things 100%. So we go into bed with the DA, make it look like we have a power sharing agreement, but in fact we like going forward and they
do our own thing,
exactly.
which has been what you're saying seems to have borne out.
But look at that. So if I was at ANC, and ANC are quite good at this, right? They're good at some things. How do you put leverage on the DA right at the beginning? Oh, let's put a bit of pressure on the DA leader and his choice of chief of staff. Right, so you leak it to the press. You're like, oh, this guy, he had like.
So this is theory number one.
That is theory number one. I got two others, right?
Right.
If I was the ANC, this is what I would have done in that regard. Realpolitik. Okay, if the DA leader buckles on this, we're good. We can go full Bella, full NHI, full expropriation. Because if they buckle on this, you have set the terms already.
You're willing to lose a nobody staff member, no offense. But
correct. And I was a nobody staff member. That's what is even more bewildering about this. Like, I'm one chief of staff out of like 300 in the country. Like, come on. Anyway, that's theory number one. The ANC did it. And for good reason, and I understand it completely. Zero emotions. Number two, I think the DA funders were like horrified. No, really. The DA funders were horrified. There's this Roman Cabanac guy who's a podcast bro. He's admitted he went to Russia, paid for by Rosatom, the company who builds nuclear reactors. And there is this report written by some NGO saying that Roman is somehow a highly influential Russian, like, I don't know, agent of influence somewhere. That there was a report written in 2023 by some anonymous NGO.
And these funders are all very wealthy but very normie. So they watch CNN.
Well, they're all Slava Ukraine and all that shit, right?
Like Kanthan.
Free Palestine with every time you fill up your car.
There you go. Sure.
Do you get a discount?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. We should try it, Jonathan. So I think the funders got really upset because they weren't part of the process. And I think those funders have a lot of influence, much more influence than DA that we might have thought before. And number three is related to number two in that I think a lot of people at the DA were like, what the hell is this? This guy from nowhere comes in. He's conservative, right-wing. So the factions aligned against John and against Helen in the DA saw this as an opportunity and kept running with the story for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think it's a combination of number 2 and 3, to be honest. I don't think the ANC gives a shit.
So what's number 3?
The DA
essentially
factions.
The DA, people inside the DA.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of those people are left-wing, some are woke.
Oh, the most awful people. I can have dinner with a communist. I can't have dinner with a DA liberal. Like, there's just nothing there to talk about, right? And I saw this in the Department of Agriculture. Like, you can see that there is like under management are like ANC guys, and you can talk to them like you can talk to your best friend. Like, you're wrong on this, you're right on this. You can have a real conversation with these guys. And they actually started getting much friendlier with me after the media thing, because they were like, oh, so you're not a member of the DA? It's like, no, I never was. Okay, great. Then we can treat you normally. Because if you were a member of the DA, like there was animosity and they were like,
sure,
not happy. But if you're not, if you're like a professional who has been employed to do the work, they treat you perfectly fine.
But I'm led to believe that the DA likes diversity, being a liberal party. So diversity of thought was too much, just a bridge too far for them.
Well, are we putting the blame on the DA at this point for Roman's
I am.
Being ousted, or?
So I think it's interesting the points you raise about, and I think, that the ANC being involved could certainly be there. Certainly they lit the match.
They could have. I don't think the ANC actually cares at all.
Sure.
To be honest.
So I'm saying they could have, they may not have, but it makes sense that they may have very well lit the match, got hold of their friends in the media, which is just a true statement of fact, and said, here's enough to go after this guy, make it happen, and see what happens. But I don't think that the ANC would have been able to succeed in that mission, assuming they had that mission.
Sure.
Without the DA absolutely wetting themselves. And so that's what I see as happening. If the DA wants to stand up for something, maybe this is, now I'm saying this, as it comes out of my mouth, I'm thinking, woof, maybe not, because they can't really stand by any red line. But if they wanted to, they could say, look, this is a position beyond which we're not going past. So the ANC keeps testing. The ANC is basically the velociraptors in Jurassic Park. They keep testing the electric fence. And they keep finding where the weaknesses are. But they know there is an electric fence. And the DA, there's certain things they probably would leave the GNU over. But the ANC keeps pushing that boundary. With you, obviously, there seemed to be no defense whatsoever. So often with an article, you'll find, they'll say something like, some sources in the party have said that they support Roman, others are against his appointment, for example. A sentence like that would normally come out in the normal course of events. With you, there was none of that.
Party sources say we are disgusted. Like, I don't care who your I don't work for the party.
Sure.
I think what is true, though, that if you go back to 2019 with the ZACP, which, of course, both Roman and I founded and launched a glorious campaign over a 6-week period, which saw the entire might of the DA being weaponized against us. Really, it was full-blown attacks. Pumzile van Dam in particular was leading the charge against us. And again, it was the usual suspects. It was the Daily Maverick and all of their ilk who were turning out against us and doing their damnedest to undermine anything that was in any way going to displace this particular hegemony that the DA has in the space that it occupies right now in the South African political landscape. And if you look in terms of how the DA has actually positioned itself, the idea that you could have independent voices that are going to pop up and essentially craft a narrative that's very different to the one that the DA clings to, which, we've all discussed in the past. The DA is firmly wedded to this idea of a capable state.
Yes.
And those of us who are very strongly in favor of free market capitalism and its ideals and individual freedoms actually abhor the idea of a capable state. We want a minimalist state and the highest degree possible of individual freedoms. And Roman, as a person who is now going into a government role and demonstrating competence in that role, and, we can talk about that a bit in terms of what came out of the China trip as an example, that is probably the worst possible thing for the likes of Tony Leon, because that then gives the lie to the idea that you actually need to have this very well-managed, capable state in order to be able to run the country properly.
Yeah, you can just have capable people.
Yes.
Who are focused.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, capable people as opposed to a capable state. Sure, the problem with making that argument, and they know it using that language. Helen uses capable state because what she's doing is she's going, look at Denmark. It works so well, and they have a capable state, right? And they're free, and they have capitalism, and so that's always sort of the argument against why would you go against that concept and that principle.
Let's also ask backwards, just to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
People create the institutions. Institutions don't create the people.
Yeah.
Right. And this is something that I've been looking into recently. It's like the institutions are built by the people. The people have a culture, a history, a sort of genetic mutation or whatever the case might be, and they build institutions that then run the society based on what the people built. So Denmark is not great because it has a capable state. Denmark is great because it's got Danish people there who've built the institutions to create the capable state.
Absolutely. And that's why, for me, a capable state is almost a red herring that gets thrown in. Because obviously, whoever you put in government, however big that government is, small, large, whatever, you want them to be capable and competent because you need them to waste the least amount of your money to do whatever you've tasked them doing. But what you really want out of the deal is some sort of ideology that drives all of this stuff, right? And the DA, the capable state, is really just a cookie cutter. So it's globalism, and it's this idea. The DA has in the past admitted this. They might not now, but they go to places like Germany and the Nordic countries, and they do these trips, and they purposefully take their up-and-coming politicians with them. So Helen or John or whatever will go on these trips, and they'll take a whole crew with them, and they put photos on Facebook and whatever. If you're friends with any of these people, you'll see them. And they go to Germany, and they meet with the party that runs Germany. Merkel's party. I forget their name.
The one that destroyed Germany.
Yes, the one that destroyed Germany.
Right.
And they meet with them, and they get told by that party. They have lectures all day and seminars where they get told about how amazing this is how you run a country. And if you just have this file, the DA made the same mistake in Joburg, by the way. If you just have this file, you open this file to the section electricity, and then that's how you run South Africa, because that's how we run Germany. Okay, and so they make the same mistake. So the Joburg example is that when they first got Joburg with Herman Mashaba, they said they literally used these words: we have the files on how to run a city, so we're just going to transfer those over to Joburg, not realizing Joburg is very different to Cape Town.
Yeah,
and they
run Cape Town because Cape Town is demographically different from the rest of South Africa. Right?
And what's acceptable?
Colours. The coloured population is 50% of the population in Cape Town. They're moderate, mostly religious, between Christian and Muslim. They have different values than the Zulus in KZN. Jacob Zuma in Western Cape will never work. In KZN, he works brilliantly. Like the institution is built by the people, not the other way around. And that's what the DA...
Whereas Joburg, of course, is
the
proverbial melting pot with,
correct.
With no clear...
So that's why we need a dictatorship.
But John, to go back to the point that you were raising, and this is about the capable individuals versus the capable state. And if you look at the DA as a classic example of that, and right now, all of the DA ministers, I would say that Home Affairs is doing a good job. Okay, in fact, I'd say Home Affairs is doing an excellent job. If you look in terms of communication, zip. If you look in terms of education, it's a disaster. If you look in terms of public works, nada. So this entire concept of the individuals actually making a huge difference, I think is crucial to understanding. One of the reasons why it was so important that Roman, as a non-DA person, and we've got to stress this, had to be removed from that position, because it would then say there's something wrong in terms of the way in which the DA is going through its recruitment process. And understand that the DA's recruitment process for the longest time was not based on competence. It was actually based on wanting to pander to the race baiters. So it's very clear that Mmusi Maimane got into his position purely because of that. It's very clear that Lindiwe Mazibuko got into that position simply because of that. And Herman Mashaba, on the other hand, having come from the Free Market Foundation and having done reasonably good stuff there, but he ends up in government, and he cannot do the three things that I wanted him to do, which was to fix the potholes, fix the traffic lights, and clean up the trash. Three very simple things that any administrator should be able to do when you're running a city.
Don't you find it weird? Herman Mashaba was a capitalist for purportedly for like 50 years. He finds dear liberalism for 3 years, and now he's like a hardcore racist. Don't you find that strange?
They turned him.
But it goes back to this idea. Sorry, like the leadership stuff. They go to Germany and looking at the capable states. What they think and what they want is basically they want managers looking after the bureaucracies, and the bureaucracies doing their job. This is called the managerial class. It's what has happened post-World War II, where we have to take away sort of nationalism and pride and everything like that, because that's what caused World War II. So you have to drain those passions out of people. You need an open society, like Karl Popper said, and you need credentialed experts to run those societies and those bureaucracies, and they are managers. They're not leaders. It's Tim Cook versus Steve Jobs. We know the difference. Donald Trump is Steve Jobs, and Keir Starmer is Tim Cook. Okay, Apple still makes a profit. What have they done in the past 15 years? Zero.
Yeah.
Right, but every single leader is Tim Cook now. Every single leader is a manager, not a leader.
Yeah.
In the West, at least.
And for me, the big difference between a manager and a leader is a leader is someone that will make decisions they know are unpopular, follow them through and stick by them regardless. Whereas a manager is essentially, in some respects, a people pleaser. And when they make unpopular decisions, they delegate them. So other people often have to do those things for them. For example, in firms now, you used to get fired by the boss. 30 years ago, even if you worked in a large corporate, you got fired by your boss. Now you get fired by HR, right? Because
I know the feeling.
no one has, no one has the balls. In terms of all of what Kanthan's referring to, I'm interested because he's listing some DA guys and saying, look, education's a disaster, comms, same story, and whatever that other guy, what's his name again? Dean. His department also is a mess. How much you've been in the system? How much does the DG actually control as opposed to the minister?
So it's actually quite. I'll give you an overview, right? And Dominic Cummings, who was Boris's special advisor, spoke about this as well after he left government. It's like the essential quality of government is process matters more than goal. Every single time, right? Process matters. That's why you hire so many people to make sure the process works. In South Africa, that is exactly the same. But we don't have the institutions that work within that process. A small example, foot and mouth disease, right? It's a thing in South Africa. It's a big problem, especially in cattle and whatever. The process is we've got a thing called OBP, which makes the vaccines. Those vaccines are then distributed to state veterinarians, and the state veterinarians distribute them to farmers to inoculate their cattle. This is how it's worked for 50 years. But in the last 20 years, OBP can't produce fuck all, zero, right? They can't produce anything. So we are importing vaccines from Botswana, which are inferior and at triple the cost. Then those have to be filtered through to OBP, then those have to be filtered through state vets, and those have to be filtered through to the farmers at large. This is the process that is legal. That's the only way to do vaccinations. But the process is broken because OBP doesn't make anything.
And I would imagine the state vet system is probably underfunded.
Completely. You got one vet for 900 square kilometers in Northern Cape.
Yeah. So,
and you have to make
tens of thousands of heads of cattle. There's no way you're vaccinating.
And there's a cold storage chain. There's a value chain of these. You can't just put these out of the back of your bakkie and drive. You know, it's very important to keep them cold. So the whole process is broken. There is zero attempt to change the process because you have to change legislation. You have to dream up of what that legislation should say. You have to go to Parliament. The portfolio committee has to look at it and has to agree with it. Then they pass it. It's a 6, 7, 8, 10-year process to change the process.
By which time you've wiped out all of South Africa's cattle.
For the most, I mean, foot and mouth is completely innocuous. Like between you and I think it's bullshit. All this.
Is it kind of like bird flu, Robert?
It's like having chicken pox to a lesser degree. It's like skin lesions on the animal. That doesn't affect the meat quality. It doesn't affect anything else.
And some animals do get quite sick. but it's a minority.
You quarantine them.
Yes. The problem is we're quarantining entire herds and then and murdering the entire herd, and then not using any of the meat, which has never been shown to infect or affect
That doesn't infect meat. It doesn't transfer to human beings, but there are trade agreements, and the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization says you have to cull. Like, that's the process.
Yeah.
Does the process make sense? No. Do we follow it? Yes, because there's nothing else. So in government, it's actually very hard to get shit done because the process matters more than the goal, and the steps of the process are completely broken because of a lack of funding or incompetence over the years or whatever the case might be. Home Affairs is doing very well because a lot of the systems have been built. SARS built the digital ID system years ago, but they were never used, right? So it's actually very good that the minister understands these things are already built, we can just do it. The law's already been passed to do it. All the regulations have been passed to do it. The previous ministers just didn't think it was necessary or something like that. I don't know. But it was all there. So it's very easy for Home Affairs to go full steam ahead. And I think he's a good manager. Leon Schreiber, I think he's a good manager. But if you have someone like Dean McPherson in Public Works,
there we go.
There's no registry of public buildings in the entire country. No one knows who owns what. If they did, how many are occupied by illegal vagrants or occupiers? Then you have to PI Act.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to try sell it, but then you have to consult. Everything takes so long because I think it was built in a way that the process is just impossible to get shit done. So I sympathize with the ministers. I do. But on the other hand, you must be a bit Schmittian and say, well, I'll just be the fucking exception and I'll just do shit.
If a leader, for example, had that department and said, okay, I'm going to take money and I'm going to invest it for the first year that I'm in here to find out what we own. And I'm going to appoint outsiders to do that because I know they'll be competent. That's maybe not according to process.
You can't do it.
Okay. No, I'm not asking what you...
Sure.
I'm a do something and ask for permission or forgiveness later.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering, is it impossible to do that? Because for me, if he then finds there's 500 buildings and he sends in private security, clears the buildings out, does this all in the space of a week. So he consults with 20 private security firms and says, I have 500 buildings. I need these buildings completely emptied in the next 2 weeks. The media cannot keep up with 500 buildings, okay? So they can lose their mind about 1, 2, 10, 20, but not 500. Helen Suzman Foundation can't sue him over 500. They can sue him over 1, 2, 10, 20. Again, not 500. See, a leader looks at how do I overwhelm the process and get what I want out of the deal here? And at the end of the day, achieve what needs to be done for the country.
Correct. And that's what John has did with the new FMD outbreak of a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
From what I can understand. Good job.
So you're giving some credit to John?
Yeah. I don't hate the guy. I just think he's weak. Like, there's a difference. But
Yes.
I think he's treated me appallingly and other people appallingly, but that's beside the point. But I think he saw that something needed to be done. We can negotiate for weeks about how much we pay. Just pay for the fucking vaccines, get them, and let's distribute them. And he did it.
Do what needs to be
done. And he did it in record time. Kudos.
Yeah.
Right. But what you find in government a lot is that what is supposed to happen is that the ministry is the head and the department is the neck. So the department does what the ministry wants. But you find this, as Dominic Cummings has said as well in England, is that the bureaucracy is actually the one making the decisions for the ministry because they keep undermining or underplaying the power of the minister.
This is the deep state in the United
Correct.
States, right?
Correct.
So people who've been employed in the departments for 30 years, the entire career is there. They don't care who the president is or who the secretary is. At the end of the day, they're going to carry on doing what they've always done.
A new minister comes in, they sit down, okay, this is the department, this is what we do. Okay, the minister says, cool, I want to focus on this. Oh, you can't really because this is a responsibility of X, Y, Z. Actually, you can as minister. You have a lot of power, but you keep being undermined and told you don't have that power by the department. Because then what's the point of the department?
And then it's a constant fight, essentially.
Not a fight.
Internally.
It's a constant negotiation.
Okay.
And negotiation leads nowhere.
Got you.
Yeah. And it's not something because the department is evil or something like that. It's just a mechanism of survival for that department, and it justifies them being there.
But surely the trick then is to issue blanket Section 189s against everyone.
As a minister, you can't technically do that. The DG has to do that.
All right. And does
And
the DG not take instructions from the minister?
They do, but then they have to look at Nahawu shop stewards in the department themselves, not threatening to burn down the building half the time. It's a Mexican standoff all the time.
But if the buildings get burnt down, then you simply ask the Minister of Public Works to give you another building. Sure.
Or you can Section 189 everyone because there's no longer a need for that department.
Operational requirements.
Yeah, operational requirements. But the point that I'm getting at
Yes.
here, I'm not trying to be facetious here. The point is, it is actually possible to get this stuff done.
Well, I think what's interesting about this part of the conversation is it's an insight we don't actually get. Our media should be doing this job.
Of course.
Okay, they should be explaining how our government works, where the problems are, why we're failing in areas that are not purely ideological, they're just process-driven. And it's just interesting to get that kind of insight. Maybe you can tell us when you went to China, what you saw there about how the Chinese do things.
So I don't have any great insight into how the Chinese do like the administrative state, but it was my first time there. We were invited to the state visits with the president. And while we were there, there was a summit of all the African leaders. I think there was like 40 or 50. Name any of them that they were there. Unfortunately, I didn't see them up front.
Like Trump, just give your name and say your country and move on.
You speak English so well. Yes, in Liberia we speak English very well.
Terrible.
That's great. But we met. I had the privilege to meet the Minister of Agriculture in China and the Minister of what's called Trade and Customs, which is sort of DTI, Trade and Industry. And what can I say? These people know more about you and your country than you do. Very impressive people. Very impressive people. I'm not going to say what we discussed or things like that, but I think China is really, they really need quite a few things, hopefully from this country as well as others, to feed their population. They don't have the space, they don't have the manpower, they want to develop technologically, not agriculturally. It's much easier for them to import stuff to feed the population with, so that they can develop other industries as well. So, I mean, South Africa agriculture is primed to become a huge, huge exporter to China. It will 10, 20x forex into agriculture like there's no tomorrow. But what we're failing to do is biosecurity, i.e. our animals keep getting sick. They keep having outbreaks of flu, avian flu, or foot and mouth disease. And until you get that done, the Chinese are just not going to buy it for real reasons.
John wanted to tag animals a while back.
Yes.
Which, a whole bunch of people got upset about.
The
Sort of
track and
security
trace
states
system.
type of stuff where, that's all linked to this? Is that why he's kind of focused on something
So
like
it's
that?
actually
Or
it's actually a solution from the private sector, and it's what every real agricultural country does. Track and tracing is what the consumer wants. Where does the meat come from? Which area of the land? Which farm in particular? It's very useful for the industry itself to pick up inconsistencies or to pick up viruses or to pick up any issues. And it's basically a self-contained tracking system that makes sure that the meat is correctly identified as beef. There's no like horse in it. It comes from this farm. It comes from this pasture. If there's an outbreak, it came from this particular area, so we can quarantine that. It's actually very important and very good to track and trace. And it's a solution that the red meat industry has itself constructed, but they just needed, I don't know if it's confidential, but basically they just needed permission to do it, in essence. So, but of course the department has its own system, which doesn't really work that well, so there's a tension in that regard. But it's the industry that wants it, and the industry that have built it quite well, I might add. So it's not the minister deciding what to do, it's the industry saying, we've already built it, it's going to solve all your track and trace issues, your biosecurity issues. The big problem we have is cows and livestock coming from neighbouring countries into what's called the red zone above the Kruger Park, where you're supposed to vaccinate all the time. But people are carrying cows from Harare, moving it to Nelspruit, and then it comes into Joburg CBD, it gets slaughtered, and people eat it, but it's got FMD, or it's got worms, or parasites, or viruses. It's impossible to do biosecurity well if you've got that sort of stuff happening.
So you need border security.
Yep.
That would be be helpful. Proper policing, maybe a military that has more than one helicopter.
Yeah, correct. You need checkpoints for any sort of agricultural transportation between borders. Yeah, lots of things. You need a vet at that checkpoint to make sure that these things are happening. As I say, just what every other normal country does. We don't have like the big. I mean, we have some of it.
We have a semblance, but not properly working.
It can be greatly enhanced. It really can.
Okay, so we seem to be very good at farming.
I wouldn't say that's exceptional. World class, the best. By
Really?
far.
You think the best, potentially the best in the world?
Not
at
potentially,
farming?
the best.
Really?
Zero subsidies.
I was going to say, the big thing that we've got here is that the agricultural industry in this country actually works with zero input from the state in terms of support, in terms
Correct.
of subsidies. I mean, all of the stuff that, why are canned tomatoes coming from Italy so significantly cheaper than the stuff we're producing locally? It's because it's subsidized.
Correct.
And it's the entire agricultural framework of Europe is heavily subsidized. And the fact that we're able to compete with them on the global stage, in spite of the fact that we get zero support for that industry from the state, I think that speaks to exactly the point you're making.
Oh, correct. I mean, one of the great pleasures of the job was actually meeting farmers and farming institutions. So I spoke to the citrus growers, which export citrus all over the world. They are the biggest exporters to the EU, second only to Spain. Spain is heavily subsidized and it's closer, so it's easier for them. And then Spain has a dispute that our citrus is not great, so there's a dispute at World Trade Organization and etc. But these are the people who are producing far in excess of anyone else under the same circumstances. And not only are we not dealing with subsidies, we are the only country that is not subsidized that is food secure in the world. But then we have water issues, logistics issues, security issues, trade issues. Like the amount of issues the agricultural sphere faces is in any other country to be insurmountable. But these people are still here.
So it seems to me...
Black and white, by the way. Yeah, I'm not saying white farmers only, etc. I'm saying like the agricultural space here is the best, the most robust. You put them in any other country with a semblance of order and control, they would 100x the investment overnight.
So we should be really trying everything we can. The government should be doing everything they can to kind of foster farming and protect farming. Not subsidize
Absolutely.
it, but
No, not subsidize it.
give the right policing to it and protections.
Correct. And so what you had in the past was you had agriculture and rural development linked together into one department. So for the past 20 years, what do they focus on? Rural development, i.e. expropriation of land and shit like that, right? And all the land reform stuff that gets nowhere. That's what they'll be focusing on. This is the first time and a great opportunity for John as the first Minister of Agriculture, I think in 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, before they merged it. And if you unleash agriculture, if you do have biosecurity, if you do have proper controls, if you can protect farmers, you can make sure their logistics are fine, etc., which is not within his ambit, of course, as a minister, but if you can make South African produce far easier to export anywhere in the world, the amount of forex that comes in, the amount of investment, the amount of capital that comes back into the country that can expand
And the jobs that get
to create
created,
more
obviously.
jobs, to create more refined value chains, to create better farmers over time. I mean, it's criminally underutilized and undervalued as an industry. It's 2% of GDP. At a bigger rate, it's about 14% of all jobs. It could be, like, as I said, like
But at
10
the same
times
time,
size.
agriculture is held hostage by water and sanitation.
Correct.
Agriculture is held hostage by transport. Agriculture is held hostage by energy costs. Agriculture is held hostage by the fact that much of our petrochemical industry, which then provided raw materials in terms of fertilizers and so forth, has been absolutely gutted under the current government. And you consider, against the backdrop of all of this, that agriculture still manages to pretty much thrive. And if you consider just how fragile the entire farming ecosystem is, I mean, just one thing goes wrong and chances are that you've wiped out your entire profits for a year, and it's going to take you a while to claw yourself back. And yet, these guys manage to hold their own.
They still make a surplus. We're still food secure, and we still export food. zero subsidies with all the problems. It's like, this is like insane Elon Musk levels of brilliance.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about it. Thankfully, the minister knows that. Thankfully, his ideas are very solid about what to do. You fix local agriculture so that we can export more. And that exportation, whatever you call it, that trade access brings more dollars in, more investment into agriculture, etc., makes life a lot easier for farmers. So the priorities are completely correct, what the minister is doing and what he professes them to be. So, funny enough, I think he completely understands what he needs to do. The question is, can he? That's a bit of a more difficult one to answer.
Who replaced you?
A woman
Okay.
who was his special legal advisor.
Okay.
And as far as I know, yeah, she's my replacement.
All right. But we don't know who that is because you were the only chief of staff who was ever important.
Well, I mean, let's just say that I was the one appointed, but she was acting like one for quite a while.
Okay. I got you.
Much to the disappointment of the department. Everyone else is like,
What's going on here?
Mr. Cabanac, are you still employed? As far as I know, yes. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Good. So tell us a little bit about all of the fallout because we went on a tangent there, but obviously the media loses their minds for 6 weeks or whatever it is. Comes to the point where John then, I think on the Thursday, defends you, and then on the Monday he basically says he's asked you to step down, something to that effect.
Well, he says that at a press conference in
Yes.
Cape Town Press Council.
And the Cape Town
or
Press
whatever.
Club, like
Press
the
Club,
worst
that's it.
people in the world, right? These are the ones that says shooting baboons with the paintball guns, like horrific abuse. But, Anyway, so we went to China. We got back on the Saturday, the last day of the month of August, I think it was. I leave John at the airport. He's going back to Cape Town. We had a great trip. I heard via the grapevine, via other ministers, our presidency and the Chinese side that John did the best in terms of getting shit done, what we needed to do. He did it the best. So I thought, great, what a fantastic trip. I come back on a high. Sunday happens. Monday I get back to the office rather. And then at about 11, I get an email from John. And that's why I think my theories about why it happened will come to bear, where he says he just had the worst meeting in the DA ever. It's becoming to a point where he can't focus, and my story or the outrage is just overshadowing everything. So let's talk about you leaving in a dignified manner. That was his way of saying it. I mean, I was gutted. I was like completely gutted because I thought the shit's over. We just came back. I've proved.
Yeah,
I think
things are working.
I think I've proved myself. So I was really gutted. He called me later that day, and you can see he was also just a man who's just been
beaten down
tremendously. So I said, listen, I mean, I accept the political decision. I know we're not supposed to, I'm a government employee, but I know the politics. Like, I get it. Like, we're both very gutted. And I said, well, let's talk when you're next in the office to see what we can do. And then 2 days later, he told the world that he asked me to resign. My secretary burst into tears. It's the first time she heard it. The other advisor burst into tears as well. We were having lunch in my office, and they all burst into tears. I'm like, yeah, this is really a shit thing to do.
You should have hired stronger people, Roman.
Shame they liked him.
Yeah.
Give him a hard
my
time over
secretary
that.
is hard. She's great. She's hard. Well, yeah.
You know, I'd like to think that my team would actually pick up guns and go out to defend me.
These are women, Kanthan. They need to be gentle and effective, and they are. So then that happens. So I'm like, this is like really weird.
So he had sort of discussed the idea, the concept of you going, but you hadn't spoken any details.
Zero.
The R word hadn't really been used even.
To this day, no one has ever asked me to resign.
No one's ever said, Ramon, we need you to resign.
No. No one has ever said that. Okay. It was like, let's have a chat about a dignified exit, whatever. So I'm waiting for this bloody chat, right?
Sure.
Then he goes tell the world at the Cape Town Press Club that I made a mistake. When you praise me in China as being like the best thing since sliced bread, and now you made a mistake, it rings a bit hollow. And then after that, I think he came to the office on Thursday or the Friday, and he seemed like a bit surprised to see me. And like his words were, well, I can't not force you not to come to the office. I'm like, what? What?
Well, he has subsequently sort of said that his view is that you were a political appointee, and political appointees know that when they're asked to sort of leave, then they just leave, skulk off, which is a very DA thing. That's a very DA procedural.
Apparently, it's not the first time it has happened in that party. Not him specifically, but afterwards, a lot of former DA people said, yeah, this is like the thing. Like there's something wrong.
No one will come to you as a man and be like, how's it? I have a problem with you. I no longer want you here. Goodbye.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if he did, it's like, listen, here's the issue. Can we negotiate? He said, I forgot to mention, he says, okay, so the DA can give you 3 months. And I said, why is the DA paying me? Like, they're not my employer. Like, it's just hush. Like, in my mind, I think it's like hush money. Hush money for what? Like, I didn't do anything wrong, right? And the reason why I didn't resign is because no one asked me to resign, firstly. And B, if you look at the contract that I signed, it's under the auspices of the Public Service Act. And the Public Services Act says for anything related to discipline, you go to the Labour Relations Act, right? And the Labour Relations Act says there's a process. I've got a fake LB according to the Sunday Times, but I know my labour law. And I'm not doing it to be recalcitrant. I'm not doing it to be difficult.
Just, we need to place on record that you have a real LLB.
Yes.
From Wits University.
Yeah.
From Wits, yeah.
Because
for what it's worth.
Because
right?
someone is now going to take that snippet and try to make something out of it.
So I actually wanted to post it on X and say, should I have the gold border on my certificate or the silver one? But I thought I was maybe pushing it a bit too far. But in essence, I mean, if they sat down with me and said, listen, it's a political decision. It's not normal. We understand. But it's difficult for the minister. I would have perfectly understood it. Like, of course, I get it. Right? I had a great time. Let's negotiate and exit, and off we go. Don't tell me there's no money. Don't tell me there's no budget. Don't tell me bullshit. Right? None of that happened. To this day, John has not spoken to me since September the 9th or September the 10th of 2024. When he says, I can't force you not to be here. That's the last I've heard of it. He told the department, you deal with it. And the department says, like, there's no issues. There's no disciplinary issues. There's nothing
Surely,
we can
as
do.
chief of staff, you could have put out an APB for his testicles.
I'm a process-driven guy. I learned that from my time in government.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that he goes on Wednesday to the press club, and then on Thursday, Pravin Gordhan dies.
Yes.
Right? And then there you go. Like
That was the thing. You just had to wait one day.
Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. And
It
that's
solves everything.
It's done.
But no, I need to be liked. I need the journalist to like me. He told me. I remember someone
But
like a
clearly
good
he
friend
had
of mine.
pressure from within the DA.
Immense pressure. That's why I think the DA did it. And his email indicates that the pressure came from a certain council somewhere in the DA, and I'm going to find out who and what exactly. That's an entirely separate process. But in essence, my feeling is that a political party took a political decision to get rid of a government employee, which to me is highly unlawful.
So in the context of the DA always going on about cadre deployment, isn't that completely hypocritical?
Well, this is cadre dedeployment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a cadre anyway.
But the point is the party clearly interfered in the business of the state,
Correct.
which they have no right to do whatsoever.
Correct.
And they did that by intimidating their leader, who also happens to be a minister.
Correct.
So they interfered in the business of the minister, which I think is probably criminal in some respects.
I mean, maybe. We live in South Africa, so maybe this is
yeah,
how
I mean, I don't think any police person, and quite nicely might go after John, but other than that...
I think he's busy with real people.
Real criminals, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's my feeling. We're hoping to ventilate this quite soon. But I do think that a political party took a political decision to deploy a employee of the state in the minister's office, which is, to me, unlawful. And we will, as I said, ventilate that quite soon. I've got a great legal team.
Yeah.
Because when you work in the law for 12 years, like, your friends tend to become lawyers, and they give you free advice. And, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But what we were talking about. Oh, yeah, and then since he went public, and then he said, okay, HR will deal with you, essentially. The last message I got was September the 18th or whatever. He said, oh, the DG's aware and he'll be in touch. That's the last I've heard. And HR doesn't know what to do because there's nothing wrong.
So when they then, so John doesn't talk to you. Everyone else in the DA also stops talking to you.
Correct.
Helen included.
She started speaking to me in March of this year, I think.
Okay, all right. So she's a little less bitter and
I mean,
twisted.
she doesn't know anything.
Yes, yeah. But essentially, you're persona non grata mostly.
Yeah, completely.
And that all happens, and then you're kind of hanging around, and every, what is it, 4 to 6 weeks, we get an article out of the Daily Maverick or one of the other papers, which turns around and goes, he's still there. Can you believe it? Can you believe he's still there? And then eventually on your birthday.
Of this year, yes.
Yes, 2 months.
June
2 months back.
June
or so.
the 3rd.
Yeah.
So, and the reason for that is the security clearance thing we discussed earlier. And it's funny. So, as I said, you need a security clearance. My contract says you need a top secret, or confidential. You need one. They claimed I didn't receive the highest one, which is fine because I never received top secret stuff other than cabinet memos. And the way labor law works is, can you do away with this while still retaining your job? Yes, I just don't deal with cabinet memos. It's not hard. But SSA is interesting, so they sit me down. Two spooks from the SSA come, and they
Nice guys.
6 hours. Yeah. No, this is not like FBI, recorder or whatever. And they talked to me for 6 hours, 6-hour grilling. Where are you from? What about this tweet? What about that tweet? What about this? What about that? Past. I mean, I got nothing to hide. They got all my info already, all my company registration documents, all my taxes, everything.
Yeah,
it's all up to date. It's all fine. I said, cool. And I think they tell the DG, there's nothing here. I was like, oh shit, okay. Send in the polygraph. So I get a polygraph test.
Are polygraphs admissible in our courts?
No. So I get a polygraph test. I ace that. There's like 10 questions. Have you ever committed a crime? No. Have you ever done this terrible thing? No.
Yeah.
Are you virtuous? Yes.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the lady, who's very nice, very nice. I mean, these people are professional people, right? And for the most part, the people in the department are very professional. I actually got along very well with many of them. And at the end, she says, I don't know why we're doing all this to you. I says, why? I said, no, you're a dual citizen. Like, we're not going to give it to you anyway, based on that criteria. I was like, oh, so is this all like bullshit? It's like, yeah, I don't know why we're doing it, because we already know as a regulation that we're not going to give it to you. So I said, okay, that's fine. It takes them 4 months to actually say that to the department of some sort. And then I get a letter from the minister the first time in like 6 months. You've been declined your top secret security thing. Explain why I shouldn't fire you or terminate your contract or whatever. And I responded, well, I don't deal with top secret stuff. Well, first of all, prove it. I don't have any certificate or proof that I failed at all. Number two, if I don't have top secret, I can still apply for the other two, as my right is, according to my contract. And I said, number three, I mean, there's a constitutional court case just like that passed the day before, the DA one, that said dual citizens are still like human beings and can do everything.
Exactly. You can't basically be discriminated against because you're a dual citizen.
Yeah, correct. And the SSA regulation, I don't think it's ever been tested in courts, and I think it's pretty irrational. I mean, unless your family is like working in the bureaucracy of
sure,
the
and you would
other
imagine
country.
the job of the state security agency, like the job of any one of those 3-letter agencies in any country, is to go, okay, we know this guy works in the government and he has dual citizenship, or a close tie to another government. So we're going to just watch him and make sure that he doesn't do anything dodgy. That's kind of their job, right?
But also, he was born in France. His entire family is here, which mine is. Okay, my mother moved back. What does my mother do? Oh, she runs a small transcription company in the south of France. Like, does she have Macron's phone number? Like, I doubt it. Do you think Macron's going to phone her to find out about the trade policy for beef, for South African beef to Venezuela? I doubt it. I mean, like, just use your mind as well.
Yes.
But no, it's just a blanket ban. And then, on my birthday, 4 people came to my house in a car. 4 of them.
Wow.
So HR, I got along very well with the head of HR because he spoke so often. Very nice lady. She says, oh no, this guy's looking for you. He's no head of employee relations or whatever. There's all these terms. You don't know who they are, titles. And they said, okay, are you at home tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. Okay, what time can we come? Who? For what? No, we have a very important letter. I'm like, okay, come at 10. 5 to 10, they're there. At my gate. Like, yeah, we're outside. Yes, hello, sir. Hello, this is your letter. Please sign. You fired. Give me your laptop. Okay, thank you. Boom, gone. Took 5 minutes. I said, and I actually said, does everyone get fired like this? And they're trying to hide their smirks away. And I just found it very funny.
Yeah.
This top secret thing.
The birthday thing, do you think it was just by chance? Do you think it was a bit vindictive?
I really think that I spoke to HR the week before, actually, and I said, listen, I get the security stuff right. And she says, yeah, no, so we've written to the SSA asking them for what you requested, which was like the proof and the reasons for it. That will take about 3 months. I'm really sorry. It takes a bit of time. We can't force SSA to be quick about it. So I was like, okay, cool. No, that's fine. So in my mind, I was like, okay, in 3 months, they'll get back to me and say, this is what the SSA said. Now we can have another discussion. So I think the fact that the minister himself sent me that letter makes me believe that he just either sort of forced the issue completely or just took a unilateral action against the department's wishes, because the department was talking to me about process like all the time, and the letter was from him directly in the middle of the process that cut off everything. So I think it was a bit of an ultra vires move on his side.
So now we wait and see, but obviously it goes to, are you going CCMA, or are you going Labour Court? I know you don't want to talk too much about
both
details. Okay. And
so the papers should be in this week. So the papers for the bargaining council were in about 3 weeks ago, so I'm waiting. So I'm saying there's 2 things: unfair dismissal on the one hand, and then breach of contract on the other, because I signed a 5-year contract. And we'll see. I mean, once it's lodged, I can speak about it a bit more about what my arguments are.
Okay.
But that should be public as soon as they are lodged.
Well, interestingly enough, you had journalists pestering you throughout this. Some great responses. You did post to X occasionally when there were specifically idiotic questions asked of you. Now that they got what they wanted, not a
peep.
Yeah, there you go.
Not a peep. That's crazy.
Yeah. So not. I mean, just it's so blatant and obvious, right? It's like it wasn't about justice. It wasn't about the right thing. It wasn't, because now there's arguably an injustice that's occurred. As you say, you had a 5-year contract. What irritated me at the time, when this all started and then throughout, was the malfeasance in the reporting. Just not getting basic things right. So, the stuff that gets out there, and unfortunately social media perpetuates, is about any topic, really. But where it's, he's just a podcast bro. He doesn't have any degree. He's not qualified. No one asked, a proper journalist says, Roman, what have you been doing since you got your LLB at Wits? Tell us a little bit about your employment history so we can understand why you might be suited actually for this job or not suited.
Yeah.
And if you tell me your 15 years of employment history since, and I can see, actually you worked in a fruit and veg shop. Sorry, that doesn't necessarily qualify you for agricultural ministry.
Maybe it does much more than being a lawyer.
Maybe. Or, hey, actually, wow, you've worked in the legal profession and managed other legal professionals, people underneath you in a chief of staff type of role.
Correct.
You've done planning towards projects or towards court cases, etc. You've dealt with government process in whether it be deeds office or anything else. I can then assess that. Now, it was never ever done.
Zero.
There was,
what the journalist inadvertently did was sort of undermine the entire employment process for the state. People think like you just walk in there and then you get a salary and a card and whatever bullshit. It took 6 weeks for me to get appointed. Like, they were thorough.
Oh, I can tell you, I've been employed by the state.
Exactly.
They are incredibly. I needed to take them. I'm a professional journalist, of course, qualified at a very high level of journalism, and I needed to take them my matric certificate. I needed to go all the way back to my matric certificate. I even needed to go to Home Affairs and get a very funny document that you get printed proving you're a South African citizen. Your ID book and your ID card and your passport are not enough. You've got to go get this one-page A4 document that has a clip art from, almost looks like it comes out of Word, of the South African flag. It, like, you know when it's wavy?
Yeah.
Like that, and then it's got your ID number and your name on it.
Is this the unabridged birth certificate?
And a stamp. No, it's not an unabridged birth. It's a proof of citizenship. And you have to go get that. Anyway, the point is that, yes, working for the state, and I've never worked at the high level you have, but working in any state department or for any state department, they are incredibly thorough, and far more thorough than I would say anyone else is.
Yeah, correct.
Which it does make the ghost jobs and the and people who are incompetent quite fascinating in terms of how that actually happens. Because every time I've been through the process and I've done it, and by the way, every time they re-employ you, even if it's in the same department. So I was always re-employed by the same provincial department, and I was re-employed by them 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Every single time I had to get all those documents all over again from scratch. So yeah, they're incredibly thorough. It's as I said, the Maltesers.
And it reflects in the quality of journalism that has emerged from that department.
Indeed, Kanthan. Indeed, it does reflect. So it just seems to me there was no one asked the real story. Obviously, there was the controversy. Oh, look at this tweet and look at what he said. And for me, I looked at it and I said, what's happened here is you've got someone who, I know you say you're right-wing and conservative, and right-wing is in the South African context is always seen as some sort of slur. And I think that's bullshit.
I'm like 80% of South Africans.
Yeah. Expand on that.
Pragmatic. I want my children to live here. I want to have enough money to live well. I want to save society. I want a society where people can have aspirations and they can be met. And I want a society that is a sort of exciting, dynamic, emerging market that makes South Africa and the African continent really exciting for overseas investors and things like that. Like, just be part of what works. That's all I want. I don't want a fascist dictator. I don't want
but the left will say your ideology, they all want those things too, but the way you want to get there, is just...
I mean, they wanted to do it with managers, which is what we have. Management is managed decline, which is what we have, right? I just read an article this morning about, in the Daily Maverick, of course, but the myth of the migrant crisis on health services. Right? I mean, of course, the public health is bad, right? But you know why? Because there's not enough money. So we need more money. But there's no such thing as migrants coming from across the entire sub-Saharan Africa coming in here to put pressure on our public health sector. My wife works in public health. You used to work in public health. It's a massive crisis. You got people coming in from all over Africa using our stuff because it's better than what they have. And I get that. But it's written by the researcher for African migration and societal development patterns bullshit, right? Who funds them? The EU. Like, this is managed decline.
The same people saying people coming across the Med on boats have no impact on the resources and infrastructure in small towns they get deposited in.
But there is a massive amount of money being poured into this, not just this country, but many other countries, to actually make the citizens despair. That's all it is. It's propaganda to kill your soul. Healthcare should be for South Africans first, and that's it.
Listen, our constitution says that.
It's not hard.
Our constitution is very, very clear. So if you go and actually look at what it says about healthcare, it doesn't say that everyone just gets free healthcare. That's not what it says.
Human Rights Commission says otherwise, Jonathan.
Well, I don't care what the Human Rights Commission, they need to read the Constitution more than once. It says that essentially you have everyone should be able to access healthcare.
Sure.
That has then had limits placed on it by the Constitutional Court. With the landmark case is Subramani, which was around dialysis, but it speaks to all healthcare resources. Essentially, you can't just get any resource, because they understand that resources are limited. And essentially, you can't just walk into any hospital and demand treatment. That's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says if you need emergency care, doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, that you get. But everything else has to be on a reasonable basis, either paid for or available. And absolutely, you're 100% right. You can't say that cesarean sections, for example, if a woman needs to have a cesarean section, there are at least 5 people involved in providing that process safely to that person, right? And that takes at least an hour of time. So it's 5 people and an hour of time. That process, even if you run it for 24 hours a day, then you've got to double those people. So now you've got 10 people. So it's 10 people to run it 24 hours a day, and you can only do 24 people at once. If there are 24 South Africans who need cesarean sections a day, you can provide that. Now, when there's 5 people from other countries, you now have 29. And a school child can understand this.
But it's more fundamental. Sorry, Kanthan, do you want to say something?
No. But I was going to say to the point that you made with regard to the Subramani decision, is that I think that was one of the most disgraceful decisions to emerge from the Constitutional Court, because effectively what they said to the guy is that you have to die.
Yes, they did.
Well, they basically just say your rights are determined by budgets.
Yes, but in this particular case, the right was the right to dialysis.
Correct.
Yes. He wanted to be able to access dialysis, and the state sector and NHI will always have incredibly limited access to dialysis because of how that system runs. And you cannot run. This has to be an NHI discussion at some point, but you cannot run healthcare like that.
But it goes back to my particular point. Like, why am I like a sort of a conservative guy? It's like, South Africa is not an economic zone. Like, there's this thing emerging, especially in the sort of post-Trump world, where our countries are not just economic zones, where you just come in, make your money, remit it to the third world, and then you become mayor and try and make New York the third world.
I feel that's how the DA sees the Western Cape, as an economic zone.
Yeah, exactly. But our nation is not an economic zone. We're not just people pursuing shareholder value, increasing GDP. It's my home. I got my family here. I got my friends here. I got my work here. I've got a history here. I hope I have my children can live here in peace as well. Once it's a home, it's not GDP goes up at all costs and shareholder value. It's like we need to set boundaries to what can be done to sustain the what can I say, like the sustainable development of this country for the benefit of its people. Because then what is the point of being a South African citizen? You don't have a right to anything because everyone else in the world has a right to the same thing, apparently. So then what is the point? Then we're not a country anymore. We're a economic zone. And I just refuse to accept that. Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, there's been this constant push around the world to turn the entire Western world into an economic zone.
Correct.
And to a large extent, part of the reason why Israel is viewed so consistently as a threat is because of the fact that it's strongly nationalistic, it's strongly religious, it's strongly focused on putting the welfare of its people first, which is completely contrary to the narrative that they are pushing in every other part of the world, that you need to have untrammeled migration, you have to have open borders.
Are you talking about the Jews? Or?
You recently got into trouble for posting the most milquetoast thing I've ever seen.
No, just like hating people is like just wrong, right?
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Like
1 million people.
Yeah. I mean, the impressions on that post are quite something.
But I do find there's a turn. So I think Viktor Orban is a very good example, the leader of Hungary. I mean, this guy's not a hateful person. Like, he's just like, no, we don't want like immigrants in our nation. We're 10 million people. We've been here forever. We've been between the East and the West for 1,000 years. And now it's our time to just define who we are. And we're going to do that. Yeah. And no amount of EU bribery or slurs can make us change our minds. Like, we know who we are. For the first time, we can have that decision in our hands and pursue it forward. And to think that this person is evil or that it's completely crazy to me. You take away morality from sort of geopolitics. Like, what do people want? They want to secure their future in that piece of land called their nation. That's all it is at the end of the day. And I think we should allow people to do that.
So what's the South African context to that? Because this country seemed to be okay. I don't buy the Rainbow Nation nonsense that was sold. Obviously, that was a PR exercise around 94, obviously. But it worked to some extent as a PR exercise because of exactly what you're referring to, which is that through 94 to about 2006, the country was on the up. Things were better. GDP was better. So that little piece of land you wanted to make for yourself, with your family, etc., seemed to be safe, seemed to be something that could grow, and it seemed like everyone would be able to get a piece of prosperity, whatever that meant for them. And so a lot of the stuff that we've had over the past 5 to 10 years, where there's all this sort of inward-looking infighting across races, cultures, obviously it's driven, there's a lot of agendas around it, but I just think that if you had published an article in 2002, this kind of thing, whiteness is unacceptable, the kind of thing News 24 will publish. And people in 2002 would have looked at that and gone, what is this crap, right? I think people on every side would have looked at that and gone, what is this crap? Because the focus wasn't on that stuff. We were doing well, and that stuff didn't matter. It seemed to matter less, put it that way. The minute the decades we've become placed under the pump and things have become harder. Everything's become harder for everyone.
Correct.
Now, obviously, those narratives and agendas take hold, and they're able to really drive through those divisions. So we are a country that is, I think, as far as I can tell, I think we're more divided than we may have ever been. And I know apartheid existed.
No, John, I'm going to disagree with you. I think, my lived experience is that on the streets, we probably get on fantastically as a country, far more so than, and, you guys know that I travel a lot. And I think that genuinely the day-to-day interactions that we have on the ground as South Africans is actually good.
Completely agree. And always has been, in my opinion. Always has been.
I think there's been a little bit of a deterioration there in my lived experience. I do think there's been
in the professional sphere. I do in that middle class sphere. I do find that.
So I think there's been.
I think it's true among the laptop class in particular.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Absolutely. What I was throwing forward to there really is, where does the politics go? Because I'm interested from your perspective. You have an interesting position now, which is that you were a talking head on the outside, and then you were very much on the inside. You have seen both sides of that, and where do you think, lots of us talking heads have our opinions on where government's going to go, what's going to happen with the DA, MK, the country, etc. Do you have any better insight because you had that experience?
Well, the only insight I have is that, for the most part, the average civil servant just wants to do the job, and the average civil servant just wants to have leadership. If you go to work and there's no KPIs, or there's no someone telling you like what we're working on and what's cool to do, or what the goal is, expectations to have, it's very demoralizing. I find a lot of the civil servants are demoralized in the sense that they don't have leadership, not because they're not getting their way. I found very little ideology in the States, except for, as far as I know, like Foreign Affairs is very ideological, and DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, is very ideological. And I figured out, if you don't want to use your power, it's very difficult to get shit done. It's extremely difficult to get crap done. And I think for the president of the country, I sort of understand why he can't do anything, because at a fundamental sense, if you don't have the belief in yourself to do it, you just can't do anything.
And a vision, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, of course. I don't think there is.
But before you have a vision, you need a constituency. And I think the issue that we have right now is that our president does not have a constituency to speak of.
Well, his constituency are sort of diametrically opposed to each other, different interest groups. And the structure of the ANC itself is something of a behemoth bureaucracy itself. In terms of, you've got the NEC making decisions, there's 80 people. It's a horse trading at all costs.
Well, if you consider back during the Mbeki era, Mbeki had the overwhelming majority of the country behind him.
Sure.
At that point. And the ANC did end up with a 2/3 majority in Parliament, and the truth is that Mbeki did not tamper with the Constitution during that time, other than this little exercise in terms of the flow crossing legislation. But by and large, he kind of kept within the rules of a parliamentary democracy. More to the point, we had untrammeled economic growth during that time. We paid off the national debt, and then the money that was saved from paying off the national debt was then put into social grants.
And housing. At the time.
Social grants and housing, absolutely, very good point. And the result of that is that the country was growing more prosperous year on year, which we could afford to do because based on the fact that we were paying social grants out of profit. And now what we are doing is we are borrowing to basically fund social grants, which is effectively printing money.
Well, I think so. I mean, just from my side, it looks like 80% of the budget is paying back the debt and sort of civil servant salaries.
Yes.
80% of our current budget. And then the remaining 25%, I could be wrong, but it's roughly around there. The remaining 25 is actually on services, on the roads and hospitals and healthcare and all the rest of it. And at a fundamental level, being in the state for as short as I was, there seems to be a great frustration with the lack of vision. Like, what are we supposed to be doing? And I don't see that happening even now within the GNU. I think the GNU actually compounds the fact that nothing can get done, because the ministers, when I was there at least, they lacked confidence. Right? It's easier to be in opposition. You go to the parliament, you say your great speech. That's a nice life. But now that you got power is actually quite difficult. And especially if
But that's why you need this elite class that's actually trained for leadership.
I agree with you.
Which the Chinese have, and the Russians have.
Yeah, I know.
And the Indians absolutely have.
But let's be honest
with
ourselves. Like I think 2/3 of the well, at least 2 ministers from the DA have only matric. Right? The DG has like a master's in public administration. Are you going to trust your gut, or are you going to trust the credentialed colleague in front of you? And I think that's where a lot of the tension arises. Like, the fact that having a trick is not bad. I think it's actually quite good. The fact that you can actually become a leader of a political party with only a trick is fantastic. That should give you confidence, not
insecurity.
Not insecurity. And I think that insecurity is a big problem, and that's why a lot of things will not happen. But at a sort of government level, just to finish, they actually stopped caring about solving problems. They stopped worrying about how to create jobs. Every time they try, it doesn't work. Or with the youth wage subsidy, or expand the EW.
But this is what I wanted to say, which is that the vision of this country is the Freedom Charter. Okay, and we've really never moved away from that. The Freedom Charter is a communist document. It was compiled with the Communist Party at the time. Yes, there's some fluffy language in there that says nice things that make you feel good inside. But at the end of the day, it's a communist document. And it's what informed the ANC throughout the struggle. But they were actually having a physical fight at that time. So the real politic of an actual war, a political war, and what was actually a physical war, means you don't have to have fantasies, you have to be real, right? But when they came into power, the NDP is it's just the Freedom Charter converted into a broader document.
Except there was a period that we went away from it. Because remember, during the Mandela era,
thank you, Trevor Manuel.
We had the entire Reconstruction and Development Program, and then came Mbeki, and he said, we are tossing this out, we are instead going for gear. And guess what? It actually worked.
And he was tossed out because of that.
And he was tossed out
because it worked.
But gear wasn't a bad idea, because there were some free market principles in gear, specifically the idea that it allowed the private sector to be involved in growing the economy and not trying to let the government interfere in that process.
Whereas the NDP is just a goal list.
Right.
There's nothing there to say how we're going to achieve it.
Right.
We want to achieve it.
And so if you look at the achievements, Cyril's achievements are rolling out essentially communism It's seizing the means of production in each industry. So EWC is seizing the means of production in agriculture and land ownership in general. And then ultimately it will come into general ownership. So it'll be businesses and it'll be IP.
So someone once told me, sorry to interrupt, someone once told me, and this is maybe correct, if you look at Cyril before he was president, when he was in business, what he used to do was to join businesses, extract the wealth, and then move on.
Yes, he's a locust.
And apparently this scenario is playing out as we speak, sort of in the state. It's not actually done for communist reasons. It's purely selfish reasons. You hollow out the industry, you buy it on the cheap, and then you sell it for a whack of profit later on, or you extract all the wealth, sell it,
and move on,
and leave the shell where it is.
Oh, but mining, I mean, that's happened with mining, right?
Correct. There's 6,000 unused mine shafts in this country.
And we haven't dug a new mine shaft in 20 years.
6,000 unused mine shafts.
Insane. Absolutely. And used to be our biggest industry.
Yeah.
And in fact, globally, one of the biggest industries in the world. The South African mining industry was
by far. But there hasn't been a plan. I think Jacob Zuma had a plan. I'm not sure what it was. He had a plan at the beginning, at least. But under Cyril, I just see sort of managerialism 101.
But let's touch on the Zuma factor.
Yeah.
Because, so, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, the events of the past week, which started with what was meant to be Cyril's grand moment, which was the unveiling of his eminent persons group, but instead he got completely upstaged by General Mkhwanazi.
Who's a hero? Is it my hero?
Who is a hero in the minds of most people in this country right now, I think, if you were to take a straw poll.
Correct.
My read of the way in which the sentiment is right now is that the ANC has taken a significant knock as a direct result of all of Mkhwanazi's revelations, particularly based on the fact that it comes not from any of the other political players, but it comes from a person on the ground who has a track record of delivery. And so if we then project forward and translate that into what happens if elections happen to be held today, I would say that you're going to see the ANC taking at least, let's say, a 5 percentage point hit further to what it had last year, which again is hugely significant. And unless there's something drastic that happens on the ANC's part over the next 3 years, by the time we get to the next national elections, they're going to be practically non-existent, which then begs the question, what happens to us as a country over the next period? Because the DA is not growing. Let's be clear about that. Okay, the DA is stuck in terms of number of voters exactly where they were.
Correct.
It's just they haven't gone forward and they haven't gone backwards. So they're very much stuck there. And
stuck. They have. It's a Liberal Party in Africa that has a consistent win of 20 to 22% of the vote. Remarkable, historical, but that's it.
Yes.
Right? That is their constituency. They've worked really hard to get it. They must be happy with it. Unless they become more left or more right.
Well, that's the point. So they could grow it. They could grow it.
Yes, but for now, let's work on the assumption that they're not going to grow it. And more to the point,
I think that assumption's fair.
And let's work on the assumption that the ANC is going to lose further ground. And so the question that then comes up is, where do we go to as a country? And that's why I think the Zuma factor is actually important, because it came back to the question of what we were talking about earlier around what is it that actually defines us as a country. And, I think the sense of nationalism is something that you will find in Zuma's faction that is completely absent right now from the ANC proper.
Correct. I don't think the ANC has any inkling for the reality of what the state is in a sort of metaphorical social sense. It's an economic zone for them. It really is.
Let me pitch something different, because you're pitching nationalism as a way to maybe win an electorate or govern the country.
No, I'm saying that that's the way that is currently carving out a path among us.
I don't think that's true. I think we are a country of personality cult. I think we always have been. I think the reality is that the people that are remembered from apartheid are all personalities and pretty much nobody else, even though there were many people involved in that. And Nelson Mandela is the ultimate personality cult. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that this entire country, the entire project of South Africa post-94 was built on Nelson Mandela's name. And it's easily provable from merchandise, clothing to paintings and
so
photographs.
100% in agreement, John.
Okay, wait.
But now, looking at going forward.
No, but I'm going to get there, right? You then have Mbeki, who's the intellectual African personality cult. You then have Jacob Zuma, who's the man of the people personality cult, and the reason why MK exists. Everyone agrees. He dies tomorrow, MK dies. It's done. Okay? Julius Malema, same story, personality cult. Floyd Shivambu thinks he has a personality cult. That's why he thinks he can start a party. Okay? Mkhwanazi, or someone like him, is our future. That is how this happens. Helen Zille could have been it, by the way. She could have been it if she had doubled down on Singapore and colonialism. If she had doubled down on that and said, I am not wrong. Everything good that has happened in the world in the last 350 years is a product of colonialism.
Yes, but she was thrown under the bus by her protege.
But that's power. She didn't manage the power properly. The point I'm making is, if someone like Mkhwanazi, if Mkhwanazi does a Floyd Shivambu, different ball game. Mkhwanazi launches a party next year and calls it the anti-crime party and says, all I am doing is I'm going to get rid of crime. And a stupid journalist comes and goes, what do you think about the situation in Israel? And he goes, I don't give a shit about the situation in Israel. I'm a South African. I'm going to sort out crime. But what do you think about the fact that there are people in the Northwest Province who don't have water? I don't care about the people in the Northwest Province who don't have water. If we sort out crime, everything else will follow. A person like that, and you've made this point before, Kanthan.
Yes.
I'm not doing anything
No, completely.
novel. And that's what I think we are. I think we're a personality cult country. And that person could rule as a dictator under a democracy for 40 years.
I agree with you. What needs to happen, though, is the elites must back them.
Yes.
Right? I've been falling into this elite theory, which was a bit popular a few years ago. And the more I read about it, the more it actually is, to me, is sort of the defining thing of the future of a country. It's like, what do the elites actually want? And can the elites build the institutions that promote whatever it is? Can they fund the parties that promote it? Can they fund the propaganda arm to promote it? And in essence, what it is that democracy is largely a sham. It's basically a battle between elite groups, two elite groups in America, Republicans and Democrats. They each got their own billionaires. And Elon Musk was the first one overtly to say, yeah, like, I'm Team Trump, I love him more than any other man while not being gay, whatever he says, right? And I think Elon put a few percentage points to Trump's victory on the basis that Trump's not going to give a shit about SEALs, hearing sonic booms from SpaceX rockets. He would say, yeah, go to Mars, Elon, I don't give a shit, right? And that's why he backed him. In South Africa, the elites are what? 2,000 people? 1,000 people? Which person
I'd probably say closer to 500.
Which person can give R1 billion to someone like a General Mkhwanazi to say, you got R1 billion, you got 3 years to set up for the national election in 2029. Here's our team. Here's like the best cream of the crop, marketers, party structure organizers, whatever, branding specialists. You got them. Here's R1 billion. Go make it happen. Mkhwanazi will win 30% of the vote. No one's going to give him the R1 billion. And that's why, to answer your question, what comes 2029? A dissolution of political power. In essence, you're going to have political enclaves, for lack of a better term. Western Cape's going to be DA, and in time to come, the DA are not going to care about what happened in Gauteng or nationally. MK in KZN, maybe the IFP takes over when Mr. Zuma passes away. IFP is not going to care about the Northwest shack fires. No, we're going to focus on KZN. This is where we've got power. We don't actually give a shit. And I think that's what is actually going to happen.
But a national government, that doesn't physically happen. So what I'm saying is, you're going to have a national election. Whoever's going to win the vote. Let's say, Kanthan, you're right, ANC drops to 30. DA sticks at 22. Let's give them 25. Hey, let's say they pander a bit more to the left, and all the people, Tsongezo Zibi's party falls to pieces, right? And he gets his 20. They get their 25%.
But even the party like that, they got 150 million rand from Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And they got two seats.
I know, ridiculous. 2 seats for 150 million.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is 25, 30, fine, we at 55. Give MK 30, 85, and then everyone else, right? Maybe 6% for EFF and 9% for the rest. That gives you 100%.
The point is you can have an MKDA partnership.
Well, that's what we should have had in the first place.
Yes.
That's what I proposed.
Yeah, it's what we should have had in the first place. They shouldn't have demonized Jacob Zuma. They should still not. You want to get rid of Cyril? Get rid of him. Go a motion of no confidence. Go tell Zuma he can be president. But you want all those ministries you wanted in the first place. You want the Treasury. You want Department of Trade and Industry. You want all those things. What will Zuma care? He won't give a shit. He wants power. He wants his family members to have access to money. Give him a little bit of lucre. This is how politics works. It all works like this. Nancy Pelosi's family is wealthy as fuck. All right? And the reason they are is
the
because...
world's greatest stock trader, man. Come on.
The world's greatest stock trader, the greatest to ever live. I mean, she makes Buffett look like nothing. But that's a pragmatism that doesn't seem to exist. What I would say is, just to push back on your elite theory, you're right. Obviously, if someone gives R1 billion to a promising person and they can actually swing it, like R1 billion to me, I would still end up with 2 or 3% of the vote because I'm just not a promising candidate in this country. Mkhwanazi's different prospects.
If ZB can make it, anyone can, buddy. Don't underestimate yourself.
but the point is the pushback is this. There are other countries that have gone through this kind of turmoil, maybe in slightly different ways, but Bukele is the sort of shining example currently. Javier Milei is another example. A lot of these people never ended up... The country had to get lots worse than this country is currently.
Correct.
But the point is that they were grassroots in many respects. Obviously, once they get closer to power, the elites climb on board. So when the elite starts seeing, that your polling suddenly looks amazing, you do get support. But they got that support grassroots. And I think maybe I'm naive to believe this, but I want to believe that that's theoretically possible, hopefully without us getting way, way worse than we currently are.
I find it difficult to believe that it'll become way worse on purpose.
Oh, you don't think it's on purpose?
They can't do anything. In terms of skill,
yeah.
But in terms of how the bureaucracy is set up, it is so difficult to do anything. It's completely paralyzing to anyone. When they talk about NHI, like it's like a figment of my imagination. I know there's a law somewhere that exists, and I know that they can pass regulations based on that. There will never be anything even close to what they say it is.
Oh,
it will make it will destroy a lot of things on the way, and I fully accept that. But I just can't see. I actually heard via the grapevine that in cabinet meetings, as soon as it's time for Aaron Motsoaledi to talk, like everyone rolls their eyes because all he talks about is like NHI, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, whatever, next. Even apparently the appetite in the cabinet itself is like, we're dealing with we're trying to solve so many things. Like this pipe dream is just a waste of time. A complete waste of time. But I don't have any solutions for this country. I really don't. And being in the state makes me think like maybe there isn't one. So I'll just go back to my older things, like just become state proof. And then the rest shouldn't technically matter that much.
Yeah.
Really. It's what I thought before, and now that I've been through it, it's like what I truly believe.
Well, consider that
ever.
the R1 billion that you're speaking about is roughly $50 million.
Yeah.
Which is, relatively nothing in the grand
pocket
scheme
change
of
for an American, for example.
Exactly, yeah.
Correct. Correct. So, yeah, I think if Elon Musk really cares, which I don't think he does at all.
At all.
But if he does, I mean, he can do that tomorrow. He's got a crack team.
It's a pity he doesn't care about fixing Earth. Never mind South Africa, but South Africa would fall into that category. He doesn't care about fixing Earth as much as he cares about getting to Mars. I mean, his entire focus, that guy's entire focus is Mars. That's all he cares about.
Tesla fixes Earth, right? By not emitting
whatever.
I mean,
but it definitely doesn't.
I know the marketing, right?
But Tesla, the whole thing was everything is a vehicle for him to be able to ultimately build giant rockets and create humanity on Earth, on Mars.
Yeah.
But if he did care about Earth, then you would assume that he would be pumping
then he
money
would be
that
Greta
kind of way.
Thunberg.
He would be Soros.
Don't trust people who care about Earth, because it's a zero-sum game.
Well, he is funding a party in America, so there's that.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't think that's a good idea at all.
Okay, Ramon, is there anything else you?
Oh, we're finished already. I can go on.
I know we can go on. I don't know if our producers will let us go on. But is there anything else we've missed in terms of something you haven't told us? Interesting tidbits.
I just don't trust the politician, man. What can I say? Just don't make the mistake I did. And irrespective of how important you think you may be to them, even if they come headhunt you out of nowhere, their loyalty is never to you. The loyalty is like sort of not even to their own party. The loyalty is like only to themselves. And they'll run roughshod over anyone and anything, destroy relationships, friendships, whatever you want, just to make sure that there's no inhibitions to the path that they want to go to. And they themselves don't even know what that goal is.
Well, if there's a single thing that comes out of your labor process, I would like an answer to the question of why Steenhuisen came very specifically looking for you. Because that, to my mind, holds the key to why this entire process played itself out. And I'm going to draw a correlation in the wake of the ZACP. I remember we were very happily living our own lives. And then I had ENCA coming very specifically to ask me to come back into the space.
I remember.
Okay. And, I'm fine. I'm living my own life. But they very specifically recruited me to do a specific job. I was told, come in on the basis that our ratings are dropping. We're currently below 30%. We want to get up to 50%, and we'll give you a year to do it. And guess what? I do it in 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly at that point, what happens? There's a social media storm that gets triggered by the EFF, and it becomes an excuse to say, sorry, you're too hot for us to handle. Coincidence?
Oh, really?
Hence my, asking the question, why did he specifically come looking for you at that particular point in time?
I don't know yet, but I will always...
I'd really like to have the answer to that.
But I'll always be grateful for that. Irrespective of what happened.
And look,
I think it took balls to do that.
So I wonder, I hear it's more conspiratorial aspect to it. I wonder if he didn't just have a moment of inspiration, if he didn't sit and go, I'm finally going to get near power. I'm going to get power, right? And significant power. A minister of a country like this, it's not insignificant. And he looked at it and thought, he understands maybe a little bit better than you did at the time, because he's been in the States sort of set up, at least in Parliament, and he understands the whole process issue. And he thinks to himself, I need people who think a little bit differently. I need someone who we haven't mollycoddled since they were 24 years old as a counselor and sent them to our school.
DA Leaders Program.
But John,
Leaders Program.
This is to my particular point.
Yeah.
It's not as though he's friends with Roman.
No.
It's not as though they've socialized. It's not as though they have any history of...
he met him a couple of times and obviously knew him from his public persona.
Yes.
But was obviously impressed by something, all right? And maybe this is what's more interesting for me is I wonder how much... I've at least been told that there's a lot of interference in the DA from people most people have never heard of. I've heard of them.
Well, that's the funders, basically.
And not only the funders, Ryan Coetzee, someone like Ryan Coetzee who has a torrid CV, should never be let anywhere near anything political ever again.
And that's the thing. We had to have a weekly meeting with him as all the chief of staff, and he will explain to us how to do our job correctly.
In what capacity was that meeting?
As a part of the DA.
But
training.
you worked for government, right?
I know, but the leader says do it, you do it. I attended two, and I skipped all the rest.
So there's
Then they remove me from the WhatsApp group.
And, a further point that
literally not the same WhatsApp group.
but a further point I must make, okay?
Yes.
You don't have a relationship with Tony Leon either.
I've never met him in my life.
Why does the guy do a hatchet job on you in his book when he's never met you?
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
Look, it's very clear that Tony still has influence in the party. Just like Helen obviously she has a formal title, but she's been sidelined somewhat. But she's got influence obviously. There's a whole bunch of people with influence. Ryan Coetzee is a person who's got influence in the party. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
Is the claim that he doesn't have influence anymore true?
I heard he was removed.
Yeah.
He was signed on a contract that paid very lucratively. I heard $8 million a year for his consultancy. For what, I don't know. And apparently he sort of disagreed with the leadership of the DA about the future of the GNU. He didn't want to fight the BEE equity stuff, and we shouldn't fight them on the tax stuff. That's what I hear. And the DA leadership, i.e. Helen Ziller, said, well, fuck you.
Well, finally.
Like if you don't want to do it, then I'll do it, and then you can go get stuffed. Apparently that's what has happened. And since then, the idea for the DA is, that's why the GNU will survive. This is maybe a tidbit for everyone. The GNU will survive because the DA will wait until they get kicked out.
I have a similar theory I floated, which is that the DA will stay until 8 to 9 months before the election or thereabouts, and then they will leave to create that space where they can then say, we are not the ANC, we're the DA, we didn't, and they'll leave over something, they'll make an issue, and that'll be the election issue type of thing, and that'll drive their sort of campaign forward.
It depends who takes over.
Sense.
Like if Motsepe is the nominated leader of the ANC for the next sort of national election, I'm sure they will have a deal with him in place before it even starts. But fundamentally, and I'm trying to be polite here, I just don't rate these people very highly.
Yes.
I just don't rate them very highly in the ethics, like the way they treated me, in the way they conduct themselves, like the sort of, and you don't need to be like a smart PhD person, whatever. You just have to have some confidence. Like I spoke to Gator McKenzie's team while I was there, and afterwards as well. And you can say what you want. I heard that he dismissed 25 people as he walked in. Which are the troublemakers? Which one will prevent me from getting what I want or doing what I want as a minister? Put them all on paid leave, fire them. If they want CCMA, pay them 3 months. I actually don't give a shit. Like, just do it.
Yeah, that's what you've got to do.
And he has zero issues in his ministry. I don't know what he does on a daily basis. I don't particularly care about sports. I don't even know you have to score how many goals for a rugby game to win. I don't know. But that's how you do it. So Gayton, despite all his faults, and I think he has quite a few faults, he understands power in a real sense. I just don't find...
And so does Zuma, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I just don't find the DA understands it. I just don't find all these other parties understand it. Even the Freedom Front Plus doesn't seem to really understand it. The only ones who understand it are the ANC in a real sense, Zuma in a real sense, and EFF in a sense as well. But everyone else in the GNU, other than Gayton, sort of doesn't really understand what it means. The process is there to paralyze you. And if you're only a process-driven person, you will be paralyzed.
And also, use power, and even if people criticize you or they think you're wrong or they take you to court, so what?
But that means you're doing it correctly.
No, you could learn it.
You set up the false binary that you control.
But the ANC's taught this for years, right?
Yeah.
They get into power and have been in power for a very long time, and they do things that are wrong, and then people go, you can't do that. And they go, take us to court. And then we do. And we go to court with our money. They hire the best advocates, and they've got like a 50% win ratio.
And it's 5 years later, 7 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And then
anymore.
you can't reverse the thing anyway. So it's said and done. You've achieved your goal.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Like if I was a minister, immediately I would say, okay, I need to cut 30% of the staff in my department. You're all on paid leave for 3 months. After 3 months, I'll cut your access. Go to CCMA. CCMA say, I pay them 3 months. Cool, we'll pay you 3 months. You can budget that.
You should budget
You
that.
can budget that immediately, right?
I used to run a business that I did exactly that. Before I employed any staff member, I calculated whether I could afford to pay 6 months in salary if I got a very bad finding at the CCMA.
Correct.
And then it was fine to employ them. And if I couldn't afford to do that, I wouldn't employ them.
Correct.
I wouldn't employ that.
And they didn't have the
that job.
dignity to do that to me. Right?
Yeah.
If they just say, Roman, it's not working out, the DA put immense pressure on me, as the email stated. I got that email, it's evidence. Can you take 6 months? Let's make a deal. I would have said, absolutely, I get it. But not 3 months from the DA, who's not my employer, and not telling the public, and then it's just bullshit, man.
Yeah, and not, which I didn't really get to earlier because we went on a tangent, but you gave up. I think a lot of people think you were doing nothing. You were kind of on there. They could find you on YouTube every morning.
Yeah.
And you said some stuff there. And if they wanted to see some inflammatory tweets, they could find those. And yeah, that's who you were. And that's what you did with your life, and somehow made money, which you can tell everyone you can't make money on YouTube in South Africa. No. But the reality is that you actually were successful in multiple businesses.
Successful is it fed my family and enabled me to live a
I think
good
that
life,
most people
right?
would consider that successful.
And the fact is that you had to shut down those businesses in order to get into government.
Yeah, exactly. So you shut everything down. You gave up your life, and everything that was making you money, keeping your family fed, to go for this new job, which would also keep your family fed.
It was less than what I was earning before.
Yeah.
And people keep saying, like, oh, he's at 1.4 million a year. Do you guys know about deductions?
And tax.
Like, have you ever had a salary in your life?
PAYE.
PAYE, right? Have you ever heard of it? 33,000 Rand a month gone from my salary that paid me, which was a bit strange. But at the end of the day, you're not getting 140,000 Rand a month, guys. You're getting 70.
Yeah.
Right? After the pension, after the medical aid, and after all the deductions are gone, you're getting 70, which is a fantastic top 5% salary. I'm not denying that. I was earning more before.
Yeah.
Right?
You gave it up to go into government and then got a kick in the teeth.
It's easy to be on the outside and keep pissing in the tent, or whatever the term is, right? But if you have the opportunity to like get in there, like, you should take it. I don't think I would have been able to live with myself if I said no.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I did it. And I don't regret it. I just regret the fact that people don't have backbones. And that's a fundamental crisis we have, a lack of
I think the
backbones.
biggest regret actually is the stuff that you could have done if you had stayed in the position.
Tell me about it.
Last thing I want to ask you, because other than being obviously the law background and then going into and obviously all the podcasting and all the stuff in the media space, which is really what I want to get to, and going into government employee, but now, you've come back out, you're doing a little bit of media. It's not for money, but it's because, again, you don't make money off that stuff. How do you think we fix media in this country? Is it fixable? I mean, I've got a media expert sitting next to me.
No, short answer is no.
But I want Ramon's answer, because he's, I think that Roman, there are a few people who are pioneers of the alternative media space, that alternative news space. Roman's certainly right up on that list. And I've got my ideas, but I'm very interested to hear yours.
So I think media needs to bifurcate the same as politics. I think that, like, corporate media stuff, having a national language about what's happening, I think that model is completely dead. I think what you can have sort of personality driven things, which is what is based in America, like we watch, like, whatever, Tim Pool or whatever. I don't actually become less interested in that completely. I do think there's a space to tell authentic, real South African stories. Like, I would love to know. There was a story from Vice years ago about a sort of militia group in a township in Kimberley, keeping the peace. And there's these coloured people, there's like 4 of them, they're friends, they've got shamboks in the back, and they patrol where the shebeens and the bars are on weekend evenings. If there's a fight, they just murder everyone and then they move on. And it keeps the peace. I would love that story. It's a story about crime, it's a story about community, it's a story about real people in South Africa. Saying what the government has done today is I really don't care. What we are seeing is like personality-driven media in terms of Mchunu is this and Cyril is this and Mkonazi said this and therefore what does this mean for the, like, who gives a shit about, who cares?
Oh, and the DA does it as well. They make very nice posters.
Yeah.
You know.
Like Stephen Groote said, I'm the greatest threat to the GNU. Roman Cabanac is the greatest threat to the GNU.
That's delusional.
So I want, whatever happened to me, I want it to go away. Like, I'm not that important. I'm not that important.
Humble doesn't look good.
There's a lot of...
Stop it.
I'm not that important. But I really think if you tell real South African stories, you can do well. The guy, Wide Awake podcast, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Like, he took a black guy to Orania. It's Sivingesi, who I think is a prick. But that's a cool story, right? And the Oranians could talk to the black guy and, like, they could say, we don't mind you just can't live here. Like, it's fine. I think those are the sort of things that A, will make money, and B, be popular, and things like that. And far more decentralized, just talk about local issues. Like, what is the municipality in this water problem? The national political bullshit is just that. It really is. And I spent too many years focusing on that. Now I'm far more interested in solution-based stuff, interesting stuff. But I don't have an answer. It's not a problem I want to solve. I think it's killing itself.
Good, Ramon. Kanthan. You can be Ramon if you really want.
No, if I was an acclaimed journalist like you, John, then I would have strong feelings on this. But my solution, as always, teach a girl child to shoot, and everything flows from there. And one Sotsi, one bullet.
Yeah, you don't. Wow, now we're going to get the Human Rights Council strike. All right, no book to sell today.
No books to sell today. But you can pick it up at Exclusive Books. How to Fix South Africa, an owner's manual.
Ramon, are you writing a book on all of this?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't have the inclination to write. Yeah. If someone wants to write it for me, I can.
And a best-selling book in the South African context is about 2,000 books, I think.
My videos get 100,000 views. I think I'm fine.
Excellent. All right. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed this.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, I need to be fair, right? For those who are watching, going through this was one of the most, I'm not being soppy, but it's very difficult, right? And I'm grateful to have a good family and things like that. But there were very few people who actually said, you know what, like, we trust you, we believe you, and give them hell. And these two were some of the most important ones. So don't underestimate what they've done. So thanks to you two as well. It was really useful, much more than you might think. So thank you. And thank you for having me on the show.
Absolute pleasure. It's tough being in the middle of that firestorm, I know. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will catch you next time. Cheers.